Good morning. For the next part of Project 2, it was a kind of a small assignment that's going to become a part of your final paper. Is going to be the industry in which the company competes in. Let me speak briefly. I've looked at most of, or I think everybody that submitted their history assignment. Most of those were pretty good. Uh, some of you took a minimalist approach, and I maybe put in the comments that you need to look at some of those points and expand them. And some of you took a rather opposite approach and wrote lots. My comment to you is probably that you're going to need to condense that a little bit. So keep in mind that your final paper is limited to 5 pages. Okay, it's a finance class, and so the biggest, probably about half that paper, ought to be devoted to the financial analysis of the company. These are just little parts that, for me, add context to a paper like this. If you just jumped right into, for a lay reader, somebody that knows a little about finance, if you just jumped right into the financial portion of it, I don't think they'd have a full understanding. And so for me, for this assignment, for things for you guys to think about, sometimes it's good to add that context in here, a little bit about the company. When did it start, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the industry. It's gotten a little bit more difficult. They used to, that FINRA site used to have an excellent. You could kind of click on a button, it would take you to the industry, and it would tell you who the leaders are in the industry, and on and on. And it was rather simple. A little bit tougher, but there's some parts of this that are going to be kind of easy, and other parts that are a little more difficult. So I put in here, identify the industry that your company competes in. I said, for example, McDonald's is in the quick service restaurant industry. What companies are major competitors? What's the company's position? How big is the overall, and other information that we might find pertinent. So I used WD-40 as an example. WD-40 is actually a relatively small company. We'll see how small here as we go along. But if I'm using, I got this as Morningstar, but I can comment it's the same thing. Basically, if I'm here in the FINRA one that I have you guys do, and here, the industry. Oh, gee, it's specialty chemicals. Okay, so I've solved that, that initial question, right? What industry do they compete in? Then it took a little bit more sleuthing, though. I had to take out my little microscope or whatever and start trying to figure out a little bit more about it. And so, I took that specialty chemical industry and I just put that into a search engine. Google, DuckDuckGo, Bing, whatever you want to use. Probably most of the results come out to be similar, and found some different things. I found there's companies that put out big reports on these things, and we could order those reports, and that would be maybe kind of fun to read through if you really had that big of an interest in it. But oftentimes they have a little snapshot of the industry. And that probably gives us enough information. Again, this is going to be a long paragraph, right? So it probably gives us enough information about the industry that'll be pertinent for our particular company. And these may look a little different for the company that you're doing, but I don't. Maybe Morador Intelligence has stuff, and you can go right to that and find your company. But anyhow, the specialty chemicals market was estimated to be about US dollars 900 billion in 2020. So that's fairly recent. That's good. Okay. And some other stuff that we might read through, but I think that was one of the questions that I asked, if I'm not mistaken. How big is the overall industry? Yeah. Well, it's about $900 billion. Okay. And I scrolled down and I read through a lot of this, and you'll want to read through a lot of this. It kind of breaks it down here into different things, right? Because there's all kinds of chemicals in this, paints and fertilizers and probably herbicides and those types of things for farming, etc. And so how big or how small or whatever is You know, here's the agrochemicals. I don't know if this one has the one that I want, but sorry. You know, here then I get into the lubricants. I clicked on a deal. This is another site. And again, I just had to do a little bit of clicking and researching and going to it, you know. The industrial lubricant market, okay, is here. Here's 2018, you know, was about 19 billion, okay, and of that, I'm sorry, the total U.S. lubricant market was about 19 billion. I'd have to almost make a guess here. I don't know that it breaks it down. That's less than half for the industrial lubricants, and that's a large part of actually what WD-40's business is. Believe it or not, we're all familiar with the little can that we all use, but they do a lot of industrial lubricants too. And so just kind of keep that, you know, number in mind. There was a chart in here. I'm sorry, but I'm not finding it right away. But it was kind of a cool chart that made some sense. By the way, this industry, as I'm going through it, you know, the compound annual growth rate of about 3.7 is what they're predicting percent. Okay, revenue forecast for that. Okay, that's the full. Wow, that's quite a jump from this though. So I'd have to read through that a little bit more. Sorry, getting a little bit delayed here. I was looking for that. I had a great chart. I wonder if it was here in the Yahoo. Yeah, doggone it. I'm going to pause for a minute and find that. Here it is. I apologize. Kind of got a little disjointed there, but I come down and I think one of the other questions that I ask is, get to the right spot here, you know, what companies are major competitors? And under this one, I scrolled down a little bit more and I found that here's some of the major players in this industry. Now, this is specialty chemicals, which has that $900 billion, you know, total sales for that particular industry. But I found this to be kind of interesting, and hopefully you'll find something like this. The specialty chemicals market is considered fragmented, which means that it's highly competitive. It's a highly competitive market without dominant players. Okay, so you know, a lot of these, like 3M, sure, they're not dominant, but they're a big player in this industry. But 3M does a lot of other things too, right? They're far more dispersed in terms of the things that they do. Okay, I'm going to go back. The full sales, it says, for specialty chemicals here was 900 billion, and even if we look at the lubricants market, which was, what did I say, about 19 billion, somewhere in that neighborhood. Let's go back though and see, you know, how much are on the income statement. This is in, it says USDA in millions except per. So in 2021, I'd add 6 zeros to this, so it's 488 million in total sales, just short of a $500 million in an overall industry that's got $900 billion in sales. Okay, so WD-40 has just a tiny fraction of that, and even if you looked at the lubricant industry, and WD-40 has a few other things that they sell besides lubricants as well. But even if you look at that lubricants industry, you know, they're a fairly small fraction of that. Okay, so there's kind of my answers for when I'm looking at that, right? How big? Any other information that they might find pertinent? That's that little chart on the. You know, I like that. What the industry is, it's a fragmented industry. You know, that has a lot of competitors, right? No dominant players. That's kind of cool. If you can find something like that, I think that adds significantly. So there you go, a little bit fragmented, my comments today, but a little bit should help you out with that industry portion of your final paper. Thanks, good luck.